Everyone, this is Chris Grosso with the Healing Journey web series presented by Toivo by Advocacy Unlimited. And this is awesome. This is the inaugural launch of the show, so there is no one more fitting to be here with me than my guests today, who are Drumm and Kelvin Young. And I'm just going to read a really quick bio for viewers that aren't familiar with Deron and Kelvin before we jump in. Deron has reshaped his life by incorporating intentional living practices. After years of struggling, he found peace and health when he stopped seeing himself as a victim and started to take ownership of his past and present actions. Yoga, meditation, healthy relationships, positive habits, and nutritious foods have allowed him to live his life free of the destructive behaviors he once engaged in. The workshops he facilitates are designed to help maximize one's human experience. And then Kelvin believes that healing begins from within. After many years of battling with drug addiction and depression, he began his healing process in prison. While incarcerated, Kelvin learned about the restorative powers of meditation and yoga, which helped him look within to find peace in a very hostile and restrictive environment. While incarcerated, he learned how to understand and accept the root causes of his emotional pain and suffering, which had led him to a drug dependency. Today, Kelvin sustains a healthy lifestyle by eating a vegan-based diet, practicing meditation on a regular basis, spending quality time in nature, and building healthy relationships with others. And knowing you guys for the time I have, that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what truly incredible individuals you are. And I say that wholeheartedly. So guys, thank you for joining me today on this, like I said, inaugural kickoff to the show.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. So I figure, that was a quick summarization of you guys, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper into each one of your stories. We don't have to, do a whole gamut of your life history, but maybe if each of you can just talk a little bit about your backstory, but with the intention of how did that lead you to where you are today at Toivo? And we will from there talk about Toivo and what Toivo is all about. So whoever would like to start, please dive right in.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, thanks, Chris, for putting this all together, and this is an honor to be interviewed by you.
Oh man, it's my honor.
Awesome, man.
Thank you.
And just throughout my journey, throughout my years battling with depression, anxiety, and drug addiction, like you said, I landed myself in prison. Now, I've been in prison a few times, but my last sentence, when I was sentenced to 5 years, suspended after 2 years with 4-year probation, I decided that I had to make some changes in my life, So I remember laying on my bunk bed and just thinking about just all the things I experienced in my life and how my daughter was growing up without me. So my daughter, she was my inspiration, for me to really look within and find out motivation within myself to make some healthy changes in my life. Now, while I was incarcerated, there's a couple things you could do. You can find trouble or you can utilize your time wisely.
Yeah.
So I chose to utilize my time wisely while I was incarcerated. So I took advantage of every single program available to really help myself, to better myself, to just become a better person, a better father for my daughter, and just be a better man in general.
Yeah.
And the program that really, truly helped me the most, it was the drug treatment program within the prison. Now, it was a 4-month program, and I learned a lot about myself, a lot about the science of addiction, and they also had a pilot program about meditation and yoga and creative arts and ways to really look within and express yourself in a creative manner, such as journaling and poetry. So I had a lot of misconceptions about yoga, about meditation, but I had to step out of my comfort zone and really try something different to really, reap the benefits from it.
Right.
So once I started practicing meditation, started practicing yoga, it allowed me to first of all find that inner peace and a sense of calmness in a very hostile and restrictive environment such as prison. Now that was a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
being around in a very hostile environment such as prison, but yet finding that inner peace.
Yeah.
But mainly I learned a lot about myself by going within and understanding like the root causes of my emotional pain, which led to my drug addiction.
Yeah.
And I understood, like, from that experience, I learned that emotional pain from traumatic experiences is at the root of addiction. And just learning about that, learning about myself, I'm like, okay, there's something to meditation. There's something to yoga. There's something to expressive arts. So therefore, I took advantage of all that time. And once I got out of prison, I really dove deep into my meditation practice.
Yeah.
And my first experience, I remember going to the Conduit Center in East Hartford, Connecticut. And that's when I learned about sound healing meditation. And my first experience with sound healing meditation, I absolutely fell in love, because it brought me that sense of peace and calmness and oneness with myself and my higher power. And it relieved that stress that I felt, and it just so many different benefits I felt from it. So therefore, moving forward into that, and really started exercising, started doing other things like spending quality time in nature. All these different things allowed me to just really find that calmness and peace. And I remember taking Recovery University training, and that's from Advocacy Unlimited. And that's where I met Darren and Dr. Karen Kangas. And I wanted to be a recovery support specialist because I wanted to give back for what I've learned from my lived experience. Being in prison, I had an opportunity to be a peer mentor. So therefore, from that experience, I learned that, okay, maybe I could support other people that's going through similar experiences like me and really help them on their journey towards health and well-being. So just putting all that together, my lived experience component, and the fact that I learned some healthy, holistic tools to utilize, this was a perfect combination. And once I found out about Advocacy Unlimited and Recovery University, I took the Recovery Support Specialist training. And first I started volunteering at Advocacy Unlimited. Then this opportunity to be a part of Toivo, it just came into place, and it's just been a great experience ever since. And I'm just honored to be a part of Toivo and Advocacy Unlimited as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that, Kelvin. That's truly powerful stuff. And that's part of what drew me, to you. I met you before Darren, and to Toivo is the passion that every single person there has. Your commitment to your own well-being, but the community's well-being and the work that you guys are doing. So,
That's right.
It's when you said it's an honor to be interviewed by me, the honor is always mine to work with you guys in any capacity, because I have the utmost respect for the heart and the passion that Toivo, has and expresses and what you guys are doing. So,
thank you.
Yeah, truly. So, Darren, can you share a bit about yourself? And then, because, you're kind of, you're boss man at Toivo. What do we call you? The big boss.
Definitely don't call me that.
I kid, but no, this is kind of Toivo. It was your brainchild, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I know there was a lot of people that came together on this, but anyways, I would love to hear a bit of your backstory and then lead into Toivo and as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chris. I share the same sentiment as Kelvin. I really am honored to be interviewed with you. To be doing this show with you going forward is really, really special to me. Your books and you personally have helped me a lot in my journey, more than you know. And also, I'm sitting here listening to Kelvin speak, and all the years of him and I working together and doing some really cool things together, a lot of interesting things. I know a lot better than to follow him. I was like, I'm sitting there, how did I not go first? Following him is not something I enjoy. He's so articulate and his story's so beautiful. But anyway, I'll give it a shot.
I'm sure you'll do fine. I've been in your position many times. And I hate when somebody will put you after another speaker and you're just like, really? Now I have to go?
Yeah.
I feel your pain, but I know you'll do great. So let's hear it. Yeah.
We'll start, when I was a kid, I struggled in many ways emotionally, and I struggled every day for as long as I can remember, as young as I can remember. I struggled with ruminating thoughts and just intrusive thoughts. I had incredible fear of God, meaning when I did things like walk in a park, I was so afraid I'd kill an insect and God's wrath would come down on me and my family. To the point where I love sports. I focused on things like basketball, where it was indoors and not in the field.
Wow.
So I had these constant things going on. When I was in elementary school, I would rub my tongue against my teeth hundreds of times a day, because I was very fearful. If I did not do that, certain thoughts I would have about something bad happening to my parents, for example, would come true. On some level, I knew that wouldn't be true, but I was still compelled to do these things. Yeah. I remember one memory of cleaning up garbage outside the condo complex I was living in with my father, in a bag, just cleaning up random garbage. And as a kid, and crying the whole time, knowing that the neighborhood kids would make fun of me, but feeling, if I didn't do it, my father, God would kill my father. And these are thoughts I had every day, and they got worse when I started driving. I had constant fears that I ran someone over, and I would turn around and look in the woods, and then be kind of paralyzed with fear for a long time. And it was interfering with my daily life to a large degree. Simple things like taking a test in school, looking at the clock to see what time it is, how much time I had left, a thought would enter my mind that the teacher just thought I cheated. And my mind would be paralyzed in fear of what's going to happen now. Even though I wasn't cheating and didn't cheat, I would have this thought and then couldn't focus on my test the rest of the way through. So these examples kept happening, and it was all happening in this vacuum. I wasn't talking to anyone about it. I had no understanding of what it was. I'll admit this, way before Google or the internet. So I couldn't search it and get some kind of sense. I remember once when I was probably like 10 or 11, going to a library, trying to do some research and coming up with the idea that I had some like nervous disorder, like a Parkinson's type thing. And of course that added a lot more fear to me, what that meant. So anyway, I reached a point when I was about 19 where it was, I'm either going to kill myself or ask for help. Wow. And it was not an easy decision for me, but I knew I couldn't go forward. And with what was the most courage I had shown it to that point in my life, I asked for help. And help for me came in the form of medical model psychiatry. It became in the form of a lot of medications. I remember the first appointment, just sharing the things I'm sharing with you, which I've done hundreds of times, much more comfortable, done a lot of meditating, a lot of healing around these experiences. But at that time, I had not. And it was very hard for me to share these things because even the words coming out, I knew what that meant. And the psychiatrist didn't even make eye contact. He was taking notes. He had his copy of his DSM, probably 3 then. Yeah. And then came back with basically I was born with this condition. It's a lifelong condition, and I have to take medications forever. And it was really the coldness of it that hurt. And I followed that. And it's not that medications don't work for some, but for me, it just seemed to make things worse. Right away, my sex life got impacted, sleepless nights, and just it kind of unraveled as things started getting worse. And then in law school, I dealt with some just serious darkness. Days when I stayed under my bed and didn't go to school. Medications got a lot stronger, and I still wasn't finding relief. And it just around that time where I was just in so much pain, and I just looked for other ways to relieve it. And I found them. I found them in casinos. I found them in bars. I found them in relationships. I found them in ways that ended up destroying everything in my life. So I went from a little kid who didn't want to hurt an insect to an adult that hurt everyone. Mm-hmm. People that loved me, people that trusted me, I hurt everyone. And then I ended up in a psychiatric hospital, I ended up in rehab, was in court many times. And people like Kelvin, like you, people kept coming into my life that just a different perspective. A lot of tools I learned, meditation, how to kind of sit with my pain, realizing that I'd spent so many years escaping the pain, and just got to a point where I literally couldn't take human emotions. Like if I felt stressed or anxious, I needed to stop that. I didn't want to feel anything. And it essentially courted oblivion, so I didn't have to feel that. So learning ways to be with it, with meditation, and finding ways to just be with that, sit with those feelings, and realizing they would actually pass. Learning those experiences and learning how to be back in my body through yoga. But one of the biggest things, someone interviewed me recently for a documentary, and they asked me, "What's the one thing you would change in the mental health and addiction system?" And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, it's really the warmth. If I could change one thing, it's the compassion, the warmth, the love that just was absent in my experience, and also my experience in looking at it in the work I do now in many places. Because I look back at my narrative and that coldness and that feeling that something is wrong with me. That's why it's so cold and people are treating me this way, versus the world I have now where people like Kelvin and you people, they hug me and it's just listen. It's just so much warmer. Yeah. And I think there's such healing in that. And I don't know why we can't do that. Why when someone says I need help, I'm really struggling, we need to make them feel like they did something wrong.
Right.
And it just, I even people that did, even when I got to the point where I did do things wrong in the views of everyone, including myself, I was still doing the best I could with the pain I was under. And when people treated me like a human being, not that not gonna have consequences for choice I made, because I did, and I understand that, and that's, but just understanding the humanness, that humans make mistakes, humans do the best they can at the level of awareness they're at that time. And I feel like that's what really needs to change, that warmth.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Just continue on exploring healing from every perspective. I studied Ayurveda, I studied traditional Chinese medicine, I teach Qigong, I studied healing from every perspective. I've read a lot of books, and I want to be of value and of service here in the work I do in my life, but I also want to find ways to be okay with myself and not hurt people ever again. And I found a lot of those ways in mind-body practices, and finding ways to balance my nervous system and balance my stress response systems. And I've studied those and I followed those, and I that's why I'm so fascinated in Toivo. That's why I fought for this space and this idea, and was so fortunate that Kelvin came along and made this into the amazing place it is. It's so important to me that people have access to these ways of getting involved in their own well-being.
Yeah. Well, what's coming up as we're sitting here talking is like, here's three grown men sharing very candidly about our emotions and the tough times that we've had. And that in and of itself is tremendous to me. The fact that, we can get together, and even knowing that people will be watching this, like, I guess it's impacted me because recently I was rewatching The Sopranos, the whole series. I love that show. Great show. It's one of my favorites. But I kept laughing because as the series goes on, there's a number of times where Tony, gets intimate and raw with and vulnerable with his therapist, but then you can tell he closes up because he doesn't like feeling vulnerable like that. And he'll go on like, whatever happened to the Gary Coopers, the strong silent types, and that's him pulling back into himself. And that, not just Tony or a mob mentality, but that's the mentality with still in this day and age, a lot of people. But it also seems like that is beginning to shift, and there is a softening, and we're able to come together. And I don't mean to make this just about the masculine side of things, but just that in and of itself, I think lends itself very nicely to anyone watching that's not familiar with Toivo and what Toivo does. Here's the two gentlemen that run it, and here we are talking about these emotions, these very difficult things in a very open way, and I just think that's really wonderful. So. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. But that said, let's talk about Toivo. So, I mean, it's obviously like your guys' huge passion, and I've been honored to watch the growth and watch your guys' commitment and your integrity in what you've been doing with this amazing facility. So, Deron, maybe if you could talk a little bit more about getting Toivo before it became Toivo, from the ground up, like actually creating it, and Kelvin coming along and you guys building it to where it is today. And of course, not to say that there's not Hillary and Annette and other wonderful people there that we should mention, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to, Chris. When the board of directors gave me this chance to run this amazing organization, which I still am just so grateful every day, I knew this is kind of my chance to do good.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of chances in my life, and I screwed them all up, right? And this is the chance. I want to be of service. I want to do good, and realizing that I get to work with this such talented people, which I do. So I looked a lot in kind of philosophy, and I came on this woman named Joanna Macy, who's an environmental activist, and she talks a lot about how social change occurs. And from her teachings, I kind of broke it down to how a social justice organization like Advocacy Unlimited, how we could do good, and what I could bring as a philosophy, and kind of expand on her work. And what she said is there's three main things. One is you have to be willing to take action, right? Speak truth to power. And I think we've shown that for 20 years at Advocacy Unlimited. I know Kelvin and I personally have done that, are willing to take strong stances when we feel it's in the best interest of our community. And we have a lot of people here that are very willing to do that. Two is to build a community of people that want a shift in consciousness. So a lot of different people that want different. And we created a lot of events, bringing people like you in, so people feel connected to Advocacy Unlimited and Toivo. We do a lot of different things, some of which I personally they don't resonate with me, and Kelvin, I'm sure, will say the same. Yeah. But it's not about us. It's about building this community of different voices, people that have different truths, but have one shared truth, which is shifting consciousness around the way people in emotional distress and struggling with addiction are treated. So that's the second piece, which I think we're really doing well, and Kelvin's just a master of building community. And the third is to do something that's an alternative, something that's counter to the status quo, and that's Toivo. Yeah. The system around this country does not offer holistic mind-body practices to the level that we think they should in the way that we do. So looking at those three things, when I got the job, I knew that we had strong advocacy. I knew that we had a lot of people willing to speak truth to power. I know that we had a community of people that we could build on, but we didn't have the alternative. I also, quite honestly, I mentioned I'm so fascinated when people heal. A lot of it is because I know healing's a daily journey for me.
Sure.
And I spent a lot of time asking a lot of people, how did you get through the dark times? How did you stop X, Y, and Z behavior? Or how did you heal from the trauma you've gone through? How were you able in prison to learn the lessons and live this life and become the beautiful person you are for Kelvin? And there's so many people like that. I was probably annoying at going to them. And I hear stories like, I started walking, and then I started running. Then I started running races, and I met all these other people that ran races, and I started having all these new friends and these places to be in this new community. And all of a sudden, things like smoking or drinking or alcohol didn't really fit into that lifestyle. Right. They kind of organically fell away. And I started I've heard this from many people. We have a lot of runners in our organization. Yeah. And they started believing in themselves, and things kind of unfolded around that. People doing yoga, what yoga meant to them, people that meditated, people that changed what they put into their body, people that were conscious about not adding aggression to the world. Just all these different ways of people change their life and transform. And I needed to know for the work I do, and I needed to know for me. And I learned all these things, and it became pretty clear not many of them were offered in the mental health system. Yeah. And I said, we can do this. We can do this. And so I looked at different strategies, whether there's going to be a class, whether there's going to be this, and it kind of became the space, which is a statewide program, which is now probably going to go outside of this state. And the idea is a couple of things. One is to get people involved in their own well-being. So it's the journey through healing, whether it's through cancer, whatever it is and through life. I say cancer because my wife went through a very difficult battle with cancer. Yeah. And you look at healing, we got to talk to Bernie Siegel a lot about healing, and there's this important part of not giving up your personal agency, like doing something for yourself. You can't, I'm sick, you fix me is not a healthy mentality. It's not a mentality that's going to lead to optimal healing. So if you do something for yourself, it's powerful. You're not at the mercy of the universe. You're not at the mercy of your doctors. You're not at the mercy of whatever you're going through. So what does that mean? Well, that means doing yoga. It means going for walks. It means meditating. It means doing sound healing. It means writing. It means doing art. Wherever it is, something for yourself. So you know you're involved, and it's powerful. Like my wife chose a lot of Western modalities for her healing, but she also fought through yoga. I remember her crying on the yoga mat, so weak, her hair gone. She's like, I have to do this for me. This is so important that I get through this. And man, it's so powerful. I feel that. I think in those really struggling days, I need to know, you know what, I can do some Qigong exercise. I can do some journaling. I can do this for me. And I think that's what this space does. Plus from this place of all our instructors like you, like Kelvin, like myself and Hillary and the other ones, all have been through hell on this earth,
Sure.
and all found ways through, and have that passion, have that real credibility. You know, they didn't just learn a tool, get certified in a tool. That tool saved their life.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful thing. And that's what Toivo brings. It's Kelvin and I joke, you have us all together and we'll be like, well, Qigong's the best thing. No, yoga's the best thing. Oh, writing's the best thing. Meditate. But that's beautiful. That's the level of passion we all have for the modality that's just done so much to transform our lives.
Yeah. I love that. And so, Kelvin, maybe you could walk us through, like, what would a typical week or month look like at Toivo? Like, because you guys do offer so much there, which is wonderful. And Deron, you made the very important point that so what if it all doesn't resonate with you or with Kelvin? Because it's not about you guys, which is beautiful. Yes, you bring your passion to Toivo, and you each contribute what you can. And if there are areas you guys can't, you bring in outside people. So you're giving this incredible, like, integral offering. It just brings all of these different modalities and teachings. And that's what drew me to you guys, besides your heart and your integrity, was just this offering you were giving. So Kelvin, maybe you can run us down, like, what are some of the things people can find at Toivo on any given weekday?
Yes, we have different types of classes and workshops. We have yoga. We have different types of yoga as well. We have 12-step and recovery yoga. We have the regular hatha yoga, which is facilitated by Hillary. We also have laughter yoga as well. And we have Zumba. We have different sound healing, meditation classes as well. We have Qigong classes. We have different support groups as well, such as Hearing Voices support groups, Beyond Anger and Violence for women that experience trauma in their lives, Alternative to Suicide support groups, different workshops on transformative habits, mindfulness, creative arts, mandala art, just different, and we're coming up with different other classes as well. But like the sense of community that we create here is so important. When people walk in the door, you know, and allow a person to feel welcome, because a lot of times, like my experience in prison, it was different. I felt, you know, it was awkward for me. So trying something new and stepping out of your comfort zone, you know, it could be a little scary for a lot of people.
Sure.
So coming in and knowing that they're supported, and they're going to be listened to, they're going to have that compassion shown to them, that love and support is very, very important. So just creating an atmosphere and a safe place to just come and be themselves. It's so important for us to create.
And I love, Kelvin, as you're saying that, I'm realizing, wow, man, that's just what's happening inside the walls of Toivo. However, you guys really do bring it out into the community, which is what I love so much about you guys. So what else besides those classes you just offer there? Like, you know, I've been honored to, as I mentioned earlier, you guys had or no, not earlier, my apologies. When I was speaking with Hillary, we were talking about the event that happened last year at the Capitol, which was incredible. And then you did another event recently in New Britain at the park, this wonderful pro-healing rally. So you're bringing these amazing things out into the community. So either you or Deron, if you guys want to talk about some of the things that are not only happening inside the walls of Toivo, and this show being another extension, which we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But if either one of you would love to address some of the things you guys are bringing out into the community.
Sure, I'll touch on a few things, and if Deron, you want to touch on some things as well. But you know, not only do we provide, you know, the healing modalities here on Franklin Avenue in Hartford, but we also go to different local mental health authorities, different drug rehabs, schools, different clubhouses, different agencies throughout the state. So we like to bring these modalities to places that might be more there's more restriction for people coming up to Hartford
Right.
area, so we'll bring it to their place as well, which is great.
I love that. Yeah. And Deron, was there anything else? Any other things?
Well, kind of around that piece I mentioned earlier about building our community, we offer a lot of different things. The Pro Healing Festival is one example, bringing a lot of people in the holistic healing community together to do the amazing work they do and display it. So we want to give we want to bring a lot of different voices in because we find that people resonate with different people.
Yes.
They can have 10 people with the same message. It could be you like, wow, I really love what Chris say. And Kelvin and I can be saying, well, we've been saying that for a long time. But whatever it is, we know, and it's true for me. You know, the teachers that resonate with me, the teachers that don't.
Right.
So we want to bring a lot of different people, and that's important to us.
Yeah. And that's what I love about you guys. Like, and I think that's why we resonate, because in, reading my work, I bring a lot of teachers that have influenced me. And I find that when I do my own stuff, that's what connects with people, so they don't feel restricted to, this is the way, and this is the only way, and this teaching is the way, and this practice is the way. Well, awesome. Maybe it is for you. And that's great. Respect. But there are different practices that work for different people. And I love that you guys are very cognizant of that fact, and that's one of your big offerings.
Yeah.
So much respect for that, guys.
Yeah.
So speaking of all these different teachings and practices, Deron, can you maybe share something with us that a teaching or a practice, again, that someone walks into Toivo, what's something they might hear, with the understanding, of course, that we're limited on time, so you can share like one thing, but this is one of 100 different things that someone could hear on any given day at Toivo,
Yeah, that's great. So one of my focuses in my life, I mentioned earlier, is ways to kind of sit with difficult emotions. So I spent years reacting impulsively to things that stress me out, and it led to snowball to really unhealthy consequences. So I look at how can I respond thoughtfully and with consideration to the things that challenge me. And Qigong broadly, yoga have helped me do that a lot. Meditation clearly has given me that little time. So when something happens to me, I can respond thoughtfully with consideration versus react impulsively, kind of thereby making that unconscious or unconscious decision to make it that whatever's worse, bad happening lasts a lot longer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the tools I use a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but it definitely comes up a lot. So when something, Pema Chodron, amazing teacher, when something hooks me, she uses the word hooks.
Yes.
So something stresses me out. She has a teaching called the 4 R's. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
So you feel something that kind of gets you, whether it's a person and something someone said or something you saw or just a memory, something brings up a memory, kind of puts you in that beginning stage of the stress response. The 4 R's is one, to recognize that something has you basically upset. The second thing is to refrain from the condition, the habitual response that you've done so many times before, which led to worse outcomes. And for me, just refraining from being sarcastic, refraining from wanting to escape from the pain in unhealthy ways, refraining from anger or yelling, or just, again, things that I know would lead to bad things because I've proven that time and time again throughout my life.
Yeah.
So refrain from doing those, sit with that. And then the third R is relax. So relax into that feeling. Just be there with that feeling. And the fourth is to resolve to keep doing that. So while I'm refraining, while I'm relaxing, I'm kind of breathing. Deep rest and deep breathing stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, kind of regulates the stress responses, calms you, and creates that homeostasis in your nervous system, in your body. And I keep doing that. So something happens, I have those 4 R's, and I notice a lot of things that would have kind of hooked me in the past are no longer hooking me. My wife notices it all the time. She's like, "You would have got upset with that in the past. You don't get upset anymore." I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I love just the one little follow-up on that. I love one of the teachings Wayne Dyer used to talk about. This idea of when you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. So a lot of people, Kelvin and I deal with a lot of people that are new in this journey, and they talk about love and peace and compassion. But when they're under stress, when they're squeezed, it's not always love, compassion, and peace that comes out, right?
Yeah.
They feel the stress, and all of a sudden it's anger and fear. And believe me, it's still that big way for me some days. But what you want is when you're squeezed, we want love and compassion to come out. And that's my goal, and for that peace to come out. And I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
And these practices help me on that journey. So when I do feel life's challenges, because life will be challenging, I respond with peace and compassion and don't aggravate the situation. And that's just one small tool to help on that journey.
I love that. And I love that you're able to own, because that you still have stuff come up, because so do I. We all do. It's life, and the spiritual path is wonderful because it does help us to learn to live more skillfully, in regards to both ourselves and other people, and to cultivate that compassion and loving kindness and awareness. But we're not perfect. We're fallible human beings. And man, I still laugh at myself some days. It's like, oh, wow. If I was grading my spiritual report card today, like big time F. But that's okay because you know what? I'm aware of it. And I was going to say tomorrow's a new day, but not even. Like the next minute is a new minute, and so we can show up and it's never too late, to bring that awareness back and to shift, which is a beautiful thing. So that's a great practice. Those 4 hours are definitely very important, and Pema is a wonderful teacher. So thank you for sharing that. And again, for viewers, there's a teacher that's rooted in Buddhism, but you come into Toivo and you might get something from any walk of life, really, like it's incredible. So it's not just Buddhism that's taught there.
Well, Chris, I love the use the word integral, because I think that's what it is. You draw on all of these teachings, all this wisdom paths, and you bring in what serves us. We offer as much as we can so people can find what suits them and just leave the rest.
Absolutely. And that's why, to me, Toivo is so important. Like you guys were saying earlier, and like I've experienced firsthand, there is such a lack of these sort of things being offered to people that need them. And not just in recovery from drugs and alcohol, but I mean anyone that's struggling with a mental health issue, which that's a big umbrella and a lot falls under that. But, to say like, here, take these pills, and that'll fix it, or, do this, do that. But not taking, again, to bring in the integral approach. Sure, I'm not saying medication doesn't work for some people, because in plenty of cases it absolutely is appropriate, maybe for a short term, maybe for longer term. But along with that, what else are you doing? Are you bringing this mind, body, spirit approach? Are you bringing yoga and meditation and qigong and laughter yoga? I mean, all of these wonderful things that you can find at Toivo. I wish we had a Toivo in every city, in every state, like the difference that it really could be making in this country. Man, it's, anyways, the work you guys are doing is so important.
And you mentioned like the different journeys that Kelvin and I talk about that a lot. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if the human organism, when we struggle, we just take a pill, we just stop drinking or stop gambling or stop doing drugs, and our life just miraculously turns around? Unfortunately, we're more complex than that.
Yes.
There's a lot involved with healing. One thing Kelvin, I know, stresses a lot is just the community, just being part of a community, what that does from the healing journey. Then there's, and for me, like, okay, I stopped gambling and drinking, but I had a lot of healing to do, and I needed a lot of tools with which to use on my journey.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And that's the thing. And that's what I love about the integrative approach, is that not every practice is applicable for every life situation, so it is very useful for us to take time and learn different means and methods, techniques, teachings, because one might work for one life area, whereas another won't. And again, that's just another beautiful thing that Toivo does. So my hat is off to you, gentlemen, for that. And one other thing I definitely want to talk about before we wrap this up is this show we're doing now. I was saying earlier, like, so you have all of these incredible things that you're doing inside the walls of Toivo, and then you have all of these incredible things that you're doing outside the walls of Toivo. But as we've talked before, that's great, but what if people aren't in Connecticut? So how can we continue to further what you guys are doing? And so we had this cool idea of let's start a web series, something people can connect, not just in the US, but anywhere in the world. You can log in, find this. We're going to be having different teachers, both locally, and not just teachers, different guests, both locally to Connecticut, out of respect for the community element we're talking about, but then also national teachers that are well known and respected and will bring their wisdom teachings to the table. So I'm very excited about that. But let's talk a little bit about this web series that we're embarking on. What are your guys' thoughts? The vision, the dream.
Yeah. There's a lot of those.
Yes.
Well, one is some things I shared. For me personally, it just, I've searched so much. I've watched so many TED Talks and read books and just trying to learn.
Yeah.
and trying to find ways that I can be well, then I can be of service. And I just feel like, yeah, to reach more people, particularly around how they got through difficult times, how they found some lessons, found some meaning in those struggles, and got through them, and they can share that with others, because we know there's so many different ways that happens,
Yeah.
but we're often not told. And so Toivo means hope in
Yeah.
Finnish.
Yeah.
So giving people hope, it's like, oh, this person, like we heard Kelvin's story, is so amazing. I think where Kelvin was about the same time I was at a place where I had gone through all these experiences, mental health diagnosis, addiction. I've had 2 strokes. I have an artificial heart valve. I mean, this place where it's like, I sat one day, I woke up and said, there's no way in the world I could ever move forward. But then I started looking for teachers, and I looked long and hard to find them.
Yeah.
I don't want people to have to do that. We want to do as much as we can to get this information in front of people so they can learn and get some hope and some valuable tools that they could use. I used to say to move forward. For me, it's not about moving inward, moving into my heart. But yeah, I think just bringing this awareness, whether it's someone in Connecticut who's done an amazing job turning their life around, or some national teacher or speaker or writer. I think it's just gonna be so valuable, and just you being the one that does a show. I mean, can't have a better story, man. I mean, what you've gone through, you're just a miracle to us, and it's such a gift to us.
Well, and we all are, like that's what I love about Toivo and being connected with you guys and considering you family. We all are just a very small portion of the large miracle that is happening in the world. The people that do come back from the hopelessness and the despair, regardless of what brought them there, what outer circumstances, but like you said, like finding a way to live in this world, we, as Hillary and I said in the other interview, she tried to take her life a number of times, as did I, and the places we have been, but that maybe sharing a bit of our story, our experience, strength, and hope can help others not have to reach those very dark and desolate places. Or if they are there, maybe they will turn this on and find a teacher or a teaching shared by a teacher or something that will help them pick themselves back up,
As we're talking, I'm thinking that at some point we should flip this around and interview you, because I think on my journey, the thing it's been so hard for me is forgiving myself for the harm I caused, for the damage I did, and just those times when that shame and guilt floods into my mind, and whether I'm a meditation cushion, and you've given me such great tools and been there for me as a friend. So was Kelvin, to find some peace and learn ways to be of service, to make daily amends. But I needed those tools. I needed people like you in my life. So I just think, I think this show is going to be amazing. I really do. And I think at some point we should flip it around and we should interview you.
That would be fun. We'll do that. You could put me on the hot seat and no, I'm, because the forgiveness thing is huge, and cultivating self-love and compassion and worth is big. I mean, that's what I believe we need to start doing in order to really heal. It does have to start from within, and that is so hard. It really is. But it's also hard to give a very sincere, unconditional love into the world if you're not cultivating it and working on it for yourself. And anyways, it's a process. It's a practice. We take it a day at a time, sometimes a minute at a time.
That's right.
But, we show up and we do what you need to do. And it's crazy, man, but life gets better. I know that we've all been in places in our lives where we never imagined we would say something like that, or let alone imagine here we are today, like having this conversation with one another and living in a place where we're healthy overall today, and not just physically, but mentally and emotionally and spiritually. That's not to say that the dark times don't still come up, because personally I've been going through like the roughest 2 months of my life, pain that I never thought I'd experience, and I've experienced pain, but here we are, I'm still working with it, and I'm showing up, and we're doing this thing, and that's the beautiful part of bringing these practices in, to our lives. So what Toivo offers, what we'll be talking about on this show. So, so I will share the link at the end of the video, but for anyone listening, toivocenter.org, correct?
That's correct.
The website?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. And I encourage viewers, if you're not familiar with Toivo, please visit that website so you guys you guys have the calendar of events right on there, correct?
Yes.
And there's also a Facebook page which is constantly being updated and sharing the upcoming events you have both at Toivo and outside of Toivo, which is awesome. So before we wrap this up, guys, any parting words, anything we didn't cover that you'd like to share with viewers?
Just one quick story about you.
Yes, let's talk about me.
Yeah, let's talk about you. Yeah, well, it's not really exactly about you, but when
I
I
want to hear it then. All right, fine, go ahead.
When I was in rehab, again, wanting desperately to find, first of all, not thinking I could turn my life around, then getting some hope and realizing maybe I could.
Yeah.
I remember asking someone, where should I start to find stuff? And the person said, find some Sounds True authors. And now to be in this world where you're my friend, we're working together on this as Chris is a Sounds True author. I mean, it was like, how cool is that? So my last plug is Indie Spiritualist, Everything Mind. I mean, Chris is very humble, but he's an amazing writer, an amazing person. And he's got a huge heart. I seriously recommend people reading his books.
Well, thank you, because I can't self-promote, so I appreciate you doing that. That's really kind, Deron. Thank you very much. Kelvin, anything from you, my friend?
Yes, well, it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Chris.
Do you want to talk about how important my books are, too? I kid. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but yeah, I just encourage anyone to just try something different. Try something new. You know, it might be a little challenging or scary, trying a different modality that resonates with the individual, but put some effort to it, you know. And if one thing don't work, maybe meditation is not for you, try yoga. If yoga's not for you, try some creative expression of art. You know, journaling, qigong, something that resonates, because there's something for everyone if you put the effort and time into really finding something that resonates with the individual. So
couldn't agree more. Give yourself that time. Absolutely.
Yes.
Beautiful way to end this, guys. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for Toivo. Thank you for the opportunity for all of us to come together and create this new show. I'm very passionate about it. And for viewers, please, again, toivocenter.org. If you're in the Connecticut area, is it 399 Franklin?
You got it.
Yes, all right. 399 Franklin Street, right in Hartford, where I used to live. So another reason I really love you guys, right there in my hometown.
There you go.
So guys, thank you very much. I look forward to many more viewers. I also will be doing one-on-one shows with Deron and with Kelvin, so we're going to get to go even deeper into their story in the coming months. So keep an eye out for that. And guys, again, thanks very much.
All right, thank you. All right.
Take care.